Well, welcome back to this YouTube channel. I'm so grateful that you have tuned into the right place at the right time, at the right moment. And today we're going to talk about this subject that everybody has been here before. It's how to be faithful while frustrated. And here's the thing, we're going to talk about the things that no one talks about. Um, can we talk about something that most people won't say out loud? That you can love God, you can be gifted, you can show up and still be deeply frustrated. I'm talking about the kind of frustration where you are working in places that feel unserious, giving your best to environments that don't seem ready for growth, feeling underrated, just altogether just frustrated with life. You can feel frustrated with work. You can feel frustrated with education. You can feel frustrated with school. You can feel frustrated with church, ministry, whatever it is. You can love God and be frustrated. You're faithful but tired. You may feel overlooked, underutilized, or like your assignment is too small for the vision inside of you. If that is you, this video is for you because there is a way to be faithful while frustrated. And it starts with some things we don't often talk about. So let's jump in. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to keep it a buck. All right. The first thing when you're talking about frustration, and I've dealt with this before, just especially when you're in a certain season of life where you're trying to figure out, like, am I in the right space? Am I in the right spot? Lord, what am I doing? You don't ever want to plateau. You don't ever want to overextend your time in a certain space. And you're just wondering, what do I do with the frustration and how do I remain faithful in this space? The first thing you want to do is clarify your why in the frustration. Before you make a move, you need to ask the question. Hear this. Am I frustrated because I'm being called to something greater? Or am I frustrated because I feel unappreciated right now? One is vision driven, the other is emotion driven. Frustration doesn't always mean it's time to quit. Sometimes it means it's time to get clear. And I believe you stumbled across this video because it's time to get some clarity about where you are in life. I recognize that oftentimes frustration is birthed out of restlessness. Sometimes you're just freaking tired. You're tired of where you are. You're tired of the same thing. You're tired of routine. And oftentimes you're just bored. If you're like me, an overachiever, someone who's always used to going, always every 4 years graduating, always looking for more, always kind of linear in your approach, looking for a step up in life, that doesn't mean that you're looking for a step up to get over on people, but looking for growth in life. You realize that there are moments where you're just bored. You wake up and you're like, bruh, I am bored. Like that kid that's in class where you're like, man, you're acting out a lot. And most of the time they're acting out not because they're bad. They're acting out because they're bored. They're done with their work. They're done. It's boredom. So I found out that restlessness is data. It's not just discomfort. That tension that you feel, it's important to internalize it. It's not random. It's data. It's divine feedback. So sometimes I found out that God will let you stay in a frustrating space long enough for you to realize that there's more in you than the space will ever require of you. Whew. So don't ignore the restlessness, the boredom, but don't rush to fix it either, if that makes sense. Ask the question, is this pressure trying to push me to create, shift, or even lead differently? Right? So sometimes we think that often, like, restlessness is calling me to leave. So we rush to exit. But oftentimes it's not about leaving, because you can leave and go be bored somewhere else. But you got to ask the question. I'm not just trying to fix this through leaving. I'm trying to figure out, is this pressure trying to push me to create, shift, or even lead and think differently? There may be something that's trying to be birthed out of this. So that leads me to the third point. Don't rush out just before the shift. Man, I think the enemy oftentimes, especially with those of us who are heavy thinkers that are big on just like making moves, right? Always big on like thinking beyond. You know, the enemy messes with us because we feel like, man, if this is not the space, then I got to make my exit. I got to make a move, right? And oftentimes that move does not mean that you have to leave where you are. It does not mean that you have to leave the space that you are at. It could mean that you need to make a shift within where you are, right? So think about this. Don't rush out just before the shift. Even in the spaces that may frustrate you, you got to pause, right? Instead of trying to rush and make impulsive decisions, stop and pause. Think, pray. Why? Because sometimes God will use those environments to develop serious leaders. So I found out that something you may not have had before may be birthed out of the frustration that you're dealing with, right? So here's the thing that you got to ask. If you leave too soon, you miss the chance to prove what growth looks like in hard places. That kind of credibility cannot be bought. Listen to me. The kind of credibility that comes out of leading through hard spaces cannot be bought. You want to know why? Because fruit doesn't lie. And here's the craziest thing. Most people want to take the elevator, but when you take the stairs, you're building and using muscles that are so different. And when you take the stairs, there's a different kind of like chest power. There's a different kind of internal power that you have that makes you think, bro, if I would have took the elevator, it was so easy to get here, but I took the step. Every day I walked in, I was frustrated, but I put one foot in front of the other and I kept going. I kept going because I wasn't leaving or living my life emotionally, but I was living my life strategically, which is my fourth point. Live strategically, not emotionally. Man, for all my emotional folks, just for a moment, I need you to lock in. Lock in with me. See, I'm not that much of an emotional person. Like, I mean, I can get emotional, but I need you to lock in for a moment. You don't owe your talents to an environment that won't steward them, but you owe yourself a wise stewardship moment, right? So oftentimes you think it's just about the environment when literally it's about yourself. It's about you owing it to yourself that you can do this. Man, environments are going to be everywhere. It's always going to be another place. There's always going to be another space, but you owe it to yourself. You owe it to God who called you. Greater is he that is within you than anything that is in the world. You owe it to yourself to live strategically and not emotionally. People will remember not that you just left, but they'll also remember how you left. So if you just up and leave emotionally, people will forget all of the good you did on the back of how you left. And when you walk out, you want it to be because you're walking towards purpose, not just because you're walking away from pressure. Because let me tell you something, a punk walks away from pressure, but a purpose-driven person walks and lives in purpose. So here's my fifth point. Faithfulness is still faith, even with frustration. Faithfulness is still faith, even with frustration. Hear me. God has not forgotten you. Whew, I feel chills. God has not forgotten you. Faithfulness doesn't always feel fulfilling in the moment. Every day, it's not going to feel like you want it to feel. But heaven counts every seed you plant in dry soil. Ooh, heaven counts every seed that you plant in dry soil. So keep showing up, not for the applause, but because obedience still matters. I know that you are frustrated, but keep being faithful, because that obedience will be a seed that you plant in the ground that will reap a harvest that you will not even know or be ready to receive. Because you got to ask the question as we close, what legacy do I want to build? That's the real question. The question, when you think about how frustrated you are in the midst of trying to be faithful, what do you want your life to say? That you stayed stuck, or that you built, stretched, led, multiplied, even when it was hard? Maybe your purpose is calling you to build what you've never seen, to create the kind of team or space you always wish someone gave you. So before you up and leave, so before you just take your crayons and go home, your cards and go home, ask the question, is my greatest contribution here, or is it waiting for me somewhere else? Either way, you ought to live with clarity and not confusion. You can be faithful and frustrated. You can be gifted and underwhelmed, but you don't have to stay stuck. I want you to know God sees you, your faith still counts, and your future is still unfolding. So if this spoke to you, I want you to drop a heart in the comments. Let me know how you're navigating your season, because I want us to stay connected. Here we grow again. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more real talk like this, because this is the space where we grow. Remember, frustration might be the doorway to your next. Just don't walk through it blind. And that door may not be an exit door. That door may be a throughway to where you are right now. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.